All right, great. So my first question for you both is that the show will be premiering in the United States this month, and we get to see you guys in not just London, but also Cape Town, South Africa. What's something that you guys would want American viewers to learn about both Cape Town and South Africa, but also London, England?
Good question. Yeah, I'm stumped. I don't know what to say.
We would like people to learn. Did
you say? Yeah. You
Right.
want to go?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think I would like people to learn that, London, England is as cool as any city in the world, because I think a lot of people, when they think of British shows, as well as I do, they're thinking Downton Abbey, we all drinking tea at 3:00, and that's how we roll. But actually, there's Bulletproof, and things are different, and a lot of the same positives that America has, we have. A lot of the same negatives that America has, we have. And I think it would be good for people to kind of understand that and see London as a really vibrant, cool, beautiful city.
Absolutely. And with the show premiering in a post-2020 era here in the United States, do you guys hope that this show can reshape how American viewers are perceiving the police at this current moment in time?
I don't know. Is the real answer. Obviously, we both know, on both sides of the water, sides of the pond, like, police are going through it at the moment because a lot of their own doing. At the end of the day, we never made this show to change the perception of police. I think that's a difficult thing to do via a show, but one thing we are doing, I guess, is making the option slightly more viable for young Black men, I guess. I mean, that's always been my thing from before we even made the show, was about representation in the police force, especially in the UK. There's a real distance, huge gap between the Black community over here and police. The relationship is not great at all, which means that not a lot of people want to join the police force for that reason. There's a huge stigma attached. And there was a big deal for us when we were making this show, because I do another show where I'm on the other side of the law. And initially when we were making the show, a lot of people were reluctant to kind of back it or whatever because of that reason. They were like, because there's just a huge disdain for the police over here, as there probably is in the States when it comes to Black people. But I guess we're changing that. We are who we are. We're Black men. We're from where we're from, but we're still doing the job. But we're doing it with a different, I suppose, moral foundation than a lot of the actual police out there at the moment. So, in answer to your question, I don't think necessarily this is going to change many people's opinion. I think that's going to have to come from the actual police force. But if we can do any little thing to help people's mentality change about the type of people that there are or should be in a police force, then we're doing something.
Absolutely. And the series shows a vacation turned into an investigation. What was the greatest challenge portraying that suspense on screen?
I think just, I think the challenge is just that, us being cops, being fishes out of water, because even though, we're not American, English cops who end up in South Africa, I think the greatest challenge portraying that on screen is, your characters, again, in the UK part of the show, we are registered police, but suddenly in South Africa, we're not, we're out of our jurisdiction. So, the characters then have to kind of do it in a guerrilla way, which they're not used to doing. One thing was always very important to us with this show was that our guys are not crooked cops, or, they're not corrupt. They don't do things sort of in a way that is slapdash. They're professionals. They do it well. They do it by the law, even if they bend it a little bit. But suddenly in South Africa, the characters they didn't have their unit. They didn't have their weapons. They didn't have their authority. So they did have to do it in a kind of different way. So that was a challenge, particularly when we created the show, when we were in the original room, we're like, they're never going to betray each other. He's not leaving. The marriage isn't breaking up. Nobody's baby's mama or baby's daddy. And these are coda. These are laws that we're having. And then in this South African one, we had to kind of bend it a little bit and do things that they wouldn't usually do because they weren't in their jurisdiction. So that was a bit of a challenge to kind of just make sure we weren't portraying them how we're all usually portrayed, and they could still be positive Black cops, but just have to do it in a different way. So that was a bit of a challenge. But other than that, I think, and I think we do that well, and I think it came out good. But other than that, it was just a fun shoot.
And for both of you, what was your preparation process for your roles?
Lie on the beach and
get fun. I think we speak about this a lot, but a lot of the relationship you see on screen between the two characters is a relationship that Noel and I have anyway. Obviously without being cops and without the guns, etc. But you know, just personally, like, you know, the relationship we have with each other, how close we are, we pretty much aim to put that on screen, you know. So that doesn't take a lot of prep because that's really natural. And when it comes to the physicality of it all, we spend a lot of the time we spend is training, is eating right, is training and getting our head into that mental, you know, into that mental headspace of, you know, being in those positions. We tend to try and try and aim to do a lot of our own stunts, you know, to make it as realistic as possible for ourselves. And then we are involved in the process from beginning to end. So it's not like, you know, we don't turn up on the day and just shoot. We write the show along with other amazing writers. We write the show, we produce the show. So we're making a lot of decisions from beginning to end. So in that sense, we are living the characters on a daily basis anyway. Do you know what I mean? Which makes it really, really easy for us in that sense. So just a lot of it just comes naturally.
Yeah.
And with you guys portraying your characters on Bulletproof, what is something you've been able to learn from one another and also your characters through this portrayal?
Yeah, I think in terms of the characters, you know, just learning, you know, about the process of being cops and how we go and how they would go about it, and then taking the elements that we want and then losing the elements we don't want. You know, for example, in this country, I don't know how it is in America. I think maybe it's going this way, but in this country, you know, if you let off your firearm, you have 2 weeks of paperwork, and a bunch of like, why did you do this? Why did you do that? And, you know, because our guys are good moral guys, we didn't want to show that in the show. So in the show, like, we lose those elements, we keep some other elements. In terms of as people, you know, I think I learned a lot from Ashley about how to be just a calmer human being, you know, and because I speak my mind a lot, you know, and that's not to say he doesn't, but I speak my mind a lot. Like, you know, I've always found this business a battle, you know, in terms of being Black and not getting opportunities. And so, like, I've always been like, yo, I'm not having this, and blah, 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 blah. And I think for me, learning from Ashley is like, sometimes it's like, just take stock, sit back, hear what madness they got to say, then assess the situation, and then come back with your retort. Whereas I've always been like, what? And responding straight away. So I feel like in terms of learning from each other as people, I feel like that is something that is definitely something that has helped me and has been a blessing in this relationship as we have got to know each other a lot more during this process. But he'll probably say the opposite, because sometimes he stays quiet.
I was just gonna say that. Bro, because sometimes I'm too quiet, you know, and sometimes I take a lot of, I've been known in the past to take a lot of shit that I shouldn't have. And working with Noel has taught me, you know, there are times that you need to speak up and be vocal about your position, about how you feel about things. And that's been a journey for me throughout us working together. And just kind of coming from the production side of things, like I was saying before, you know, being a part of the whole conceptual process and the writing process and stuff like that is only happened for me, even though I've been in this game for many, many years, but that's only happened for me doing this show with Noel. And he had so much experience in doing that already. So I've listened and learned throughout this with him, and learned so much in that. And then on a more lighter level, I guess, whilst filming the show as well, being able to do two sides. I've always been like a very reserved, kind of serious actor, I'd say, in that way. And I'm not saying like being serious about acting, I'm saying like the way I act has always been like a serious kind of element to it. I've never really done comedic performances. I've never really stepped out to the other side. And Noel does both sides very well. You know, his timing, his improvisation skills and stuff like that. You know, in the first season when we got on set together, sometimes I was watching in awe. Do you know what I'm saying? I haven't really had this conversation with him, but sometimes I'll just be watching like, wow, you know, and he's taught me a lot to lean into situations and to enjoy it a lot more, which has meant that, you know, probably this is my favorite show to shoot out of all the shows I get involved with. Do you know what I mean? I enjoy being on set on this one the most. I've learned how to be able to enjoy myself and not take myself so seriously.
And my final question for you guys is, what do you guys hope viewers will gain from watching Bulletproof South Africa?
I'm hoping that they will gain, you know, you're going to gain some knowledge about South Africa, because we had to implement that in the show, being there and seeing how things were, the positive and negative sides of it. So you're going to get a lot about that, I suppose, a lot about the history over there, a lot about, you know, racism, the disparity between the rich and the poor, but also as well from our point of view, even though we are shooting in South Africa, you're going to get a lot of the UK culture. Do you know what I'm saying? I think that's happening a lot more in this day and age, but this show is a big part of that. But, you know, you're getting a lot of our music, but I guess you're not getting as much of our TV and our films as we do of yours. So I'm just hoping that people gain a better understanding as to the different sides of London and the different types of people that live there. We are not all, do you know what I mean, period drama, kind of tea drinking, crumpets and scones. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, there's another side to this place that is really deeply rich in culture and style. Do you know what I mean? And slang and language and stuff like that. That I guess you guys would like to. Well, I'd hope that you guys would want to get to know as well.